Welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andy Temte. On the Balancing Act, we talk to business leaders and industry experts to explore the balancing acts we play in our professional lives and learn about the events that put rocket boosters behind their career success. Today we have Tracy Nolan joining us. Tracy is a Fortune 100 executive and board director on a mission to inspire corporate leaders to shatter glass ceilings. She brings an impressive executive track record in the telecommunications and healthcare industries to the show today. She's also on the board of Dress for Success, and we'll talk a little bit about what that is later in the show. Welcome to the Balancing Act, Tracy.
Andy, thank you so much for having me today. I'm thrilled to be here, and it's great to meet you.
Excellent, excellent. Now, we like to hear our guests' stories, the elevator pitch version of your story. If you could tell us that, that'd be awesome.
So, Andy, I actually graduated college with a degree in marketing research and management information systems, really not sure what I was going to do. And I started in retailing, believe it or not, and I fell in love with helping customers, just buy clothes at that time. But kind of what my elevator pitch is that I am all about how to improve customer experience, how to transform businesses, and through all of that, also having what I call head and heart, duality of a leadership perspective. And so I just want to enjoy what we do, want to have a lot of success, and I love watching people grow.
Oh, that's awesome. If you had to pick an event in your life that really was a key accelerant for your career, what would that be?
I go back to a time in my career where I had a great leader who I didn't even know at that time that Ron was, a sponsor of mine. I didn't even know the difference between what a sponsor and a coach, et cetera, was. But he put me in what I call uncomfort zones. I was just promoted into as a director of sales. And we had a new CEO, and he's like, hey, you're going to go and talk to the CEO and tell him what your plan is. And he would not help me with my presentation, and he wouldn't even let me review it with him. So I was like, what is he doing to me? Like, what is it? But what he did is he really taught me to have confidence in myself. And he did it to prove something to me that like, hey, you know your stuff, you can do this. And he put me in that. So I am very well known to put others in uncomfort zones. They don't always like me when I do that. But what it does teach is it teaches a level of confidence in that helping people know what they can achieve.
Yeah. Well, I scratch my head when folks, they say they want to learn, but then they want to be comfortable all the time.
Exactly.
And you just can't do that. If you're a passenger to the process, then you're really not going to learn anything. So kudos to Ron for tossing you in. I'm sure that Ron was there to support you as you exited the pool. Is that
he was?
I have that right?
I would tell you that I exited the room before he did from the meeting, and I spent the next. I actually went to a grocery store and was walking around a grocery store waiting to see if I could have feedback. And I think he purposely didn't call right away because he wanted me to be in my own thoughts, and then he called and he wouldn't give me feedback until I gave him feedback, which was another important lesson. Like, you don't, your affirmation on how you're doing really doesn't depend on others, depends on how you feel. And so that was another key lesson. He definitely was an inspiration, and I didn't realize how much he provided me as far as leadership until many years later. But I do remember, I remember that so vividly because of those two scenarios that he taught me.
Yeah, awesome. So, Tracy, looking at your background, you've led operations teams, sales teams, and business transformations. To what do you attribute your ability to cross functional area boundaries in business? What gives you the courage to raise your hand and say, hey, I came from a marketing background, but I can do this operations stuff. Put me in, coach.
Yeah, I think what it is that I'm not afraid to. You mentioned it earlier. I had another situation where I had a really nice role. I was president and in the middle, for Verizon, running the Midwest, and people would say, "Hey, just put your head down. Like you're doing well. You're middle of the pack. Just put your head down and like just don't worry about anything. Like it's a good job." But I was always the one that wanted to step out because I believe that if you don't push first yourself forward, you're actually going to fall behind. And
Yeah.
I'm I have I've had to build the confidence in myself to say that if this doesn't work, I'd rather take the chance than not take the chance and just be comfortable. To your point, um, there are so many, and I have to remember that there's so many opportunities that if this one doesn't work, it's okay. There will be something else. And that isn't easy. I watch people who stay in roles for the same role for 15, 20 years. And if they want to do that, that's fine. But you have those situations where people come up and say, I want to do more, but I'm not getting the opportunity. And I would say, I don't know if you're not creating that opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. Putting yourself in that position, because you just got to remember, if you're in the workplace right now and you have a bit of ambition and you want to move forward, there are many other people around you that have those same thoughts, and so you're not alone in that. So. But they might be afraid to raise their hand. You, on the other hand, Tracy Nolan, have this fantastic track record that you can teach everybody today that, you know what, just raising your hand and say, put me in, coach, that gets you a long way.
It does. And you may not like, I just had something last year that was a pretty big project and I had to recruit people. And there were a couple of people like, why would I want to go do that? There's no sure way that that's going to actually work. And I was like, yeah, but when you make it, not if, when you make it work, because you can always course correct as you go, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't just decide to do something, but think about what that's going to mean for the company. And two people have been promoted because they took the chance, went in and did something incredible. But I got to tell you, they weren't quite raising their hands. I kind of had to help them do this, but now they've realized what that all means.
Yeah, and for our audio listeners, Tracy had her elbow in her hand and was nudging it upwards. So, Tracy, let's run a thought experiment. I like doing these. Suppose you have a 21-year-old female college student sitting in front of you right now. She wants to break through and make a difference in her career, much like you have. What's your advice to this individual?
I love this question because I have a 22-year-old niece who I just graduated with her master's, and she asked me this question just this week as we were having a FaceTime conversation, and I gave her a gift for her graduation, which was a bracelet, and on it says "Be the change," and that would be my advice that you don't, to your point and what we've been talking about, don't wait, like be the change, go out and do something that you really enjoy and make a difference. And don't wait for others to come to find what you are best in. Just be the change, go out and make it happen.
Yeah, so in terms of skills that you would have your 22-year-old niece really focus on post-graduation, am I hearing courage? What else is in the mix
I'd say
there?
courage, continuous learning, and really important is creating a large network of people. Like going and meeting people. I do worry today that so many people graduating and at 21, going through COVID and everything, that people have kind of recluse back to their homes and
Yeah.
people aren't in offices as much, but networking and getting to know and learning and that is also super important. So courage, definitely developing a network and just have a little fun too. I mean, work does not have to be, work has such a negative, you know, connotation, but work can be fun. I look at it as a puzzle, right? Like every time I have something that I need to do that's hard, I take it from me personally and I stick it on the table and I
Yeah.
say, let's figure this out together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, life is full of those puzzles. Uh,
It is.
Yeah, so curiosity would be another skill
Yes.
that I would put right there at the top. That, be curious about how this puzzle comes apart and goes back together in a better form than you found it. So let's run another thought experiment. You now have a mid-career female manager, and we're focusing on women here, building women up in the world of business. This person feels stuck, unseen, and underappreciated. They want to grow. They think they have more in the tank, but they just can't seem to get noticed. What advice do you have for this person to make meaningful change mid-career?
So I've run into a lot of people in this position. Number one, I'd seek out anything that you could raise your hand to, as we talked about. But I'd also do a little bit of self reflection because I also experienced this. I always tell people to, like, in mid career, look at yourself and realize that you may be focused in one area of leadership or management or even, individual contributors and not looking at what I call full circle, engagement, which is, you know, are you are you adding value to your boss? Because some people think it's a one-way street that the boss manages you, but I try to manage my boss and I tell him that all the time. Is like what I mean by that is how am I adding value to him and what his goals and objectives are beyond just delivering the work that I'm assigned, right? So, like, how do I help and do that? And that will help you get noticed, right? And it's a lot of us don't like to brag about what we're doing. And I'm not saying necessarily bragging, but I definitely feel like you need to speak up and make sure that people know because we're all busy. I don't know what all 4,000 people are doing every day, but there's some really important things that are going on that I would love to know so I can brag about the team and what they're doing. So, kind of managing your boss, managing, of course, if you have employees, staying highly connected to what's happening with the customer or your customers, because that brings you more value too, because you know what's actually how they're feeling. And so much of today is built on experience and how customers are perceiving the brand and perceiving the product or whatever. And then really importantly is your peers. I didn't spend a lot of time with my peers because I thought, hey, I'm in charge of this, like manage down and just get it done. But to really make change impact, you need your peers. They're great for learning about their parts of the business, but the more you can learn about the other parts of the business, the more valuable you will be and the more successful you'll be if you lean into others around you and not just try to solve problems yourself.
Yeah, on that peer front, there are givers and there are takers in that peer group. There's competition in that peer group, and the takers will try to run over you. So do your best to really have your emotional intelligence antenna up and look for the people who are doing what Tracy Nolan is doing, leading from both the head and the heart. Those are the people that you want to gravitate toward because there are those that'll just take from you and want to leave you behind. And I would advise to avoid those. What do you think?
I do, or what I kind of prescribe to, I had a situation with a peer who everybody was super frustrated with because they weren't delivering results. And nobody would literally say it, but everybody was super like, and so people were avoiding this person. And so I decided, okay, I'm gonna be the brave soul, and I'm gonna go have lunch and say, hey, we have a choice here. Like we can either work against each other or we can work together. And everybody else thinks that you're difficult to work with. And I literally said that, like, I want to be the one that I can be your sponsor to tell he's not that difficult to work with. Actually, he's really intelligent and can bring it. But I had to put it on the table at a lunch and just say, we can continue down this path of ugliness and not working together, or we can try to figure this one out and I will be your supporter. And so depending on the situation, like sometimes that just honest conversation that's not that nobody wants to have can help break that down. But I also have been at the same token, I have found for some reason in many of my positions, there was always just one woman. There was a thought between women and, peers that there could only be one person who, only one woman at the table. And I hate that. Like, I hate that. Why can't we bring each other along? And I am so fortunate in my current role that this is the first job I've been in where women just like, we help each other. Like, we're like our peer group. We are just, we're a lot of fun. We help each other out when we're having issues. It's pretty fantastic. So it can be there. It's just, to your point, many times your peers are trying to get the one step ahead, and it can be very difficult.
Yeah. Well, just to recap, what I heard there, I heard bravery because, it's difficult to take your peer out to lunch and have that difficult conversation. That takes real bravery. And then that phrase that you used, bring each other along. You're all in this together, and you're all helping each other out toward common aims. That's really cool, Tracy.
Thanks. And I love to highlight my peers for doing things that are great, because once you start to do that, then they feel this like ability to do that also. I mean, not just if they don't do anything and just brag about them, but like help highlight some of their successes, because then they'll do the return, right? But it's work. And I think a lot of people don't just would rather not worry about their peers. But if unfortunately or fortunately, you're not a sole proprietor, right? So you need to work together, especially in big companies. It can be difficult.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a really short commercial break. We'll be right back with Tracy Nolan. Hey everyone, I'd like to invite you to start your weekend with me on the Saturday Morning Muse podcast. I briefly explore topics that span leadership, business management, education, and personal continuous improvement. Subscribe to the Saturday Morning Muse podcast on your favorite podcast streaming app or visit andrewtemte.com for more information. And we're back with Tracy Nolan talking about mentorship, breaking glass ceilings, and business transformations. So, Tracy, you've led numerous business transformations during your career. The data consistently shows that most business transformations fail. What are the top 2 ingredients from your perspective to a successful business transformation?
So, a lot of times in business transformation, or whether it be a merger acquisition, because they're all transformations, in my opinion, the biggest thing that's missing is communication. And I know it sounds so basic, but, I always tell this story about we were going through a major merger and and everybody had all these questions. And so I just opened a bridge one day and I said, anybody in the company that wants to get on, just come talk to me. And I think people were surprised because I don't usually, when you do a town hall or something like that, the leader will fill the whole time with content, and they'll want to keep the question time really short, right? Because they don't know what they're going to get. Well, I do the opposite. I do like 10 or maybe 15 minutes of an hour, and then I just sit there and I say, okay, it's time for open questions. And of course, you'll have a few people who will have some that they've, pre-scripted or whatever, and I can usually tell them I'm not going to answer those. Now tell me really what's going on and what's on your mind. And so in doing so, you really open up and you start to hear from the employees. Now, the first time I did it, there wasn't a lot of questions, but I still sat there for that time and I just let the clock run out. Then the second time, I did it, more questions. And I said, just ask me anything. And like, if you're curious about layoffs, ask me. If I can tell you, I will tell you. If I can't tell you, I'm going to say we're still not sure yet, right? Like, or I'm going to say if it's something I can't talk about legally, I'm going to say I can't bring that up, but thank you for bringing it forward. And I'm glad to know that's on your mind, and I'll see what I can do, come back to you on. And that open communication of making people understand that you're with them through this and that you're listening to them, I think is probably the biggest thing in any, whether it's, hey, I'm transforming a division, I'm transforming an organization, anything along those lines, like communication to me is number one. And then along with communication is making sure that you bring, as I said, you got head and heart. You bring that heart along with you and let people know that it's tough and that it's scary. And even giving your own personal thoughts about it, bringing it a little personal into that you understand and that you're not just some robot, leader. I think those are the two things. So, everybody can put together a great strategic plan, but leading with the heart and letting people know you care and then communicating are the two things that I really lean into in any sort of transformation.
Yeah, so constructive vulnerability is I'm right there with you, and then the value of the pause.
Yes.
I used to run this experiment, right? I'd get out my phone, or in the old days my watch, and I'd just count 60 seconds of silence. And with 200 people, 300 people sitting in front of me. Okay, anybody got some questions? And I'm just going to count 60 seconds, and I'm not going to say anything. And people learn what 60 seconds actually is. And you think that you think as a leader, you got to fill all that time with words, and you got to say things. But sometimes the pause just to let people think, and then the questions start coming. It's a really beautiful thing. The ask me anything. Thank you, Tracy Nolan, for bringing that forward. I encourage all leaders to do ask me anythings. You agree?
I totally agree. And I also block time, even when we're not in a transformation, to have time with employees to listen. And it's like my admin will say, well, you got this other meeting. I'm like, no, that's my hour a week that I'm having with a cross group functional group that doesn't even know, like we just pick at random and I just sit down and have that conversation. Super important.
Yeah. So, I've got to ask, you spent most of your career in telecommunications, which is an industry with some of the lowest consumer sentiment and net promoter scores. How do you grow employee engagement in the teams that you've managed during times of tough sledding and that negative consumer sentiment?
I think, the telecommunications industry is a you're selling really an intangible is the way I always say it. Like you do get a phone, but you're really selling airspace.
Right.
It's super complicated to sign up. It takes, at one point it was up to, I think it was 58 minutes to just get through a sale. Customers don't love to stand around, sporadic. It's really hard to staff in that environment. So you do have angry customers, you have really hard time figuring out how to schedule in it and all of that, which does lead to a lot of stress on the employees, right? And then that stress then, it really rolls down to how they treat customers, right? So I really subscribe to putting a customer at the center of everything, and it's bringing it back to letting them know, like, hey, if it's 58 minutes, what is the thing that's going to make it best for the customer and best for you as an employee who is engaging with customers? And then looking at what those things are and figuring out how to deliver improvements towards improving the NPS in the score, but getting that feedback again, really from the frontline employees that are working with customers. And I always say there's two types of employees in the organizations, those that work day by day, day in and day out with our customers, and then the rest of us who work for those who work for that are interacting with it, and kind of changing the paradigm of putting, those that work with our customers first, and then helping them see that we're making improvements into the NPS in how we're treating customers. But it's like taking and saying, okay, you brought up 10 ideas here. We're going to focus on these 5 and we're going to deliver these 5, because then you start to bring people along and they feel like the improvements are coming,
Yeah.
and then they can get there. But you really have to start with that. And any complicated sale that's not like you just going in and getting a Diet Coke and walking out of the store, but has multiple items along associate, really has to evolve in how you try to figure out how to make it easier for the customer, because then it'll be easier for the agents and better NPS scores.
Yeah. Customer at the center. Thank you. So I'm curious about Dress for Success. Let's shift gears there. What's the primary purpose of that organization, and where can listeners learn more about Dress for Success?
Sure. So you can go out to the web, to Dress for Success worldwide website. We have over 130 different affiliates around the world. And Andy, if you don't mind, I'm going to give you a quick story. I knew I wanted to be part of Dress for Success goes way back to when I first started out of college in retail, because Dress for Success supports unemployed and underemployed women to achieve economic independence, both to thrive for work and in their personal lives. And what I love about it is, originally most people think of Dress for Success as an organization that would help women who, were unemployed and had, economic issues, to be able to get clothes and help prepare for interviews. But it's gone beyond that these days, where we're really focused on how to help women, be able to support themselves, support their families, and really, it's honing in all skills. And we talk about health, we talk about, how to financial budgets, and now it's much more. We provide more programs than just clothing these days. And I knew I wanted to give back, and I knew I wanted to be part of a national or global nonprofit. And I literally last year reached out to them, and it took me about 6 months to have them understand why I wanted to be part of their board and what value I made. And I've actually just been given the title of secretary on the board for Dress for Success Worldwide. So I really believe in this, and it was my number one philanthropic that I wanted to give back to. So super excited about it. And there's so much you can do within the communities to help those that are struggling, and helping them, gain confidence back and learn what it takes to be able to, to thrive and live in economic independence.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for that explanation. Now, I have 3 lightning round questions for you. And the first lightning round question is you just won $100 million lotto jackpot, but there's a stipulation that you give half of your net winnings to one philanthropic organization. Who do you pick? Is the choice obvious, or is there another one?
Boy, what kills me on that question is only one, because I'd want to do it to, yes, Dress for Success would be definitely one, because I think the impact that they could have, especially, with women, would be significant. And I do think that building women's confidence and giving them a platform to be able to succeed would be phenomenal. And I think we could help so many women by doing that. I would also tell you that if I could, I would also do something in the healthcare space, just because there is just so much today of people who aren't able to achieve, health equity, that I would want to try to figure out how to provide health care to those that cannot afford or can't get it today. So right. I think that would be second, but if I had to guess one, it would be Dress for Success.
Awesome. Tracy, now I put you into a small time machine and you can send a message to an earlier version of yourself. What's the message, and what previous version do you send it to?
So I'm going to send it to myself probably, um, I would say probably around 14 or 15, because at that time I wasn't following the family norms on what I had. My brother, sister, my mom and dad were all athletes, and I was not following down the athlete trail. And I wanted to do something different than they did. And it was awkward and it was hard. But like, I just would say, hey, just be true to yourself and, things will work out. I thought I was going to be a school teacher and I thought I was going to be at home with multiple children. Neither of those things worked for me, but I still think that, I've had an incredible path and I'm very happy that I've been able to do what I've done. And so like, don't worry about it. Like you can be you, just be you. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, excellent. We're all works in progress. What are you focused on right now in your personal journey of growth as a leader?
So, my growth is all around giving back because I feel very super fortunate that I've had a Ron, I've had mentors and sponsors who have helped me achieve, heights that I never thought I would. So for me, I continually learn on how to do that. So like, how can I give back? How can I help others? So I do that. But I also say that the thing that I'm also a work in progress in is I'm not a perfect leader and I'm constantly looking for feedback on, whether it be through trainings, whether it's programs, feedback from my team, and I think I take feedback much greater than I used to, because I do want to make sure that I'm helping them thrive. And what am I doing from that? And then I'm constantly learning. You will always find me, Andy, taking some course, being involved in something. I probably overprogram still to this day too much, but I just I love learning. I love growing. And there's so much on the AI space that if I wish I could just learn it all. I learned a new word yesterday. Like they're just constantly learning. So
that's awesome. Well, Tracy, it's been wonderful having you on the show today. Really appreciate your contributions.
Well, thank you, Andy. This was fun. I'm glad we were able to work this out, and it's great meeting you. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Well, my name is Andy Temte. This is the Balancing Act podcast. You can find us on all the major streaming services as well as out on YouTube. You can see Tracy on YouTube raising her hand herself there. So you can find us out on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, rate, and most importantly, share this public good with your friends and your colleagues. Show is produced by Nicholas Temte, and we'll see you next time on the Balancing Act.